In today's lesson, we're working on the high forehand put-away ball from midcourt area. So you might be playing somebody who's getting every single ball back, who's just happy to retrieve balls and not doing a whole lot other than making you hit ball after ball after ball if you're choosing to letting them drop and moving back behind the way back behind the baseline. So another option that you have is to move up to that ball and take the ball either on the rise or apex on the top of its bounce. So you're doing a couple of things there. You're taking time away from the person, you're moving inside the court to open up angles, and it's just a really aggressive ball. And that's what we're going to work on today. My name is Micah Babel. I'm a former top 30 WTA pro player. I played in 19 Grand Slams. If you like this video, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click that little bell symbol to see when I'm putting out new content. And let's get started with the session right now. A common misconception when people approach a put-away ball on the forehand and midcourt is that they think they have to generate all power, all topspin with just their arm. And that puts an incredible amount of stress on your shoulder and on your arm. So if you look at the pros, and we'll look at somebody in a second who does that really well, what you notice is they use their lower body to create all that power and all that topspin. So we're going to work really, really hard on loading our legs. We're using the ground to really create a lot of energy that will travel up through the legs, through the hips, through the core, and then lastly, of course, into shoulder, arm, and wrist to generate topspin, yes, and pace. Topspin is what you definitely need when you're in midcourt because essentially the court has shrunk. You have taken space and time away from your opponent, so the baseline is a little closer to you, and with that amount of topspin that you're putting on there, you're getting the ball to actually come down again, because if you're swinging very flatly, you're actually going to launch that ball right into the fence. So let's look at this a little bit more in detail. So I promised you somebody who's really, really good at the high forehand midcourts. So let's look at Dominic Thiem here. All right, so some of the key points here, really how he's loading his legs. So you see here, he's still squared up, and now he's moving up to a shorter ball. Now look at where his feet are and how they're positioned and how low he's really dropping into his knees here and into his legs. So you see he's got a semi-open stance here. We see very extreme how his left arm is helping him load and dip down here. And what you're also seeing is that he's still letting the racket drop under the ball. So the ball's right here and the racket comes under the ball and brushes up really, really aggressively because you're seeing that he's a little bit more in the court. And on the second ball here, we're seeing that even more so. He's moving up. And again, it's that semi-open stance here, loading with both of his legs, and he's using the energy that will travel up through his entire body, and it goes right into the ball here. And we're seeing that he's letting the racket head drop under the ball, and then he brushes up to it really aggressively right here. Contact point is shoulder high, and it's out in front, and you really see how he's launching himself into that shot, and that's exactly what we're getting when we're loading our legs properly and then use that energy to transfer it into the ball. So what I'm working on is using the ground to push against and generate all energy that goes into the shot. So what I'm doing, I'm a right-hander, is I'm dropping into either a complete open stance or a semi-open stance. But you see how low I'm sinking. At the same time, I'm using my left arm very, very extremely to coil my entire upper body. Again, always think of a spring. You coil it, you let loose and it uncoils. So make sure you turn here and you're brushing up to the ball and through with a lot of topspin. So you need to swing fast, which you will be able to if you load properly, right? And you really drop low here. And then I brush heavily, and because I've dropped so low, I'm actually lifting up. That's not because I just want to jump, it's because I created so much energy and it just lifts me up. And it translates then from your legs into my hips, into my core, into my shoulder, and so on and so forth, up all the way over the ball. Now, your swing path needs to be your regular loop, albeit a little higher. Right? You don't want to let the racket drop as low because you're ideally taking this ball between shoulder and chest. So just think about if you punch somebody, you can uppercut them, you can roundhouse them, but the best power translation happens here, about shoulder height. So yeah, don't go punching people, but good analogy there. So make sure that you're getting your racket back, you're getting under the ball, you're brushing up and through the ball, but your loop is not as low as your regular ground stroke. So it's up here and you brush through it. And you will most likely lift up here and land on your left. Now you can go inside out, you can go inside in. Either one of them is fine. And a lot of times because you're so aggressively inside the court and you are hitting a very aggressive ball, follow it in. You might get a really easy put away volley there because you're pulling the partner or your opponent off the court. So let's look at all of that from the side. So you see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to catch that ball shoulder or chest high. And of course what I have to do for that is I have to move up to the ball inside the court. If I'm choosing to let that ball drop, I can still hit an aggressive ball, but I want this aggressive court position. Because as we said before, the closer you are to net, proportionally the net is lower and you can open more angles. You can open the court. So that's what I want to get. And what I'm trying to do is I get my take back. And again, we talked about that I don't want to have it all the way low here. I want to have it about around the shoulder. Right? So I'm kind of rotating around the shoulder here because that's where I want to make contact. And hugely heavy load off your right so that you really dip low and you're lifting up to your contact point. That's really what you want. And make sure that you're not hitting down. That happens a lot when you first start working on this shot because you're so excited that you have this midcourt ball. And I speak from experience. Make sure you give it a lot of topspin because as we said before, again, the court is so much shorter now that you're so far in the court. You need that rotation for the ball to go in. So let's look at it from the front. And this is where I really have to trust my shot making abilities because otherwise I take the camera out. We don't want that. Okay, so now that we looked at the mechanics on how to hit that ball, how do we work with it? How do we train it? So what I like to do is I put a ball machine in a corner because that's mostly where I force that ball from. Right? I just move my opponent into a corner. They're most likely not going to give me the ball from a middle position. So I just move them into the backhand side if it's a right-hander and I'm getting this ball. So what you're doing is you can use a water bottle, a cone, I'll take a hat today, and you're putting that about a racket length off the baseline and a racket length off the hash mark, and you're going in sets of 6. So what you're doing is 6 balls, and you're always recovering behind your cap here, or your mark, or whatever it is. And what I'm working on really is my first step, and that is a lot of times a drop step. So what you're seeing here is I'm pivoting on my left foot, and I bring the right side of my body around so that I can then either just take 1 or 2 more steps to load, or I can then shuffle, whatever I need to do to get myself behind the ball and in a position where I can load and then transfer my body weight from behind the ball into the direction that I'm hitting. So I'm going with sets of 6 balls, inside out, put away forehands. So I'm going with sets of 6, I'm waiting here, working on my drop step, and then I get around the ball and then around my cone, getting ready for my next ball. And I'm really need to work on getting inside the court, turning my upper body here and loading. Got the drop step on that one. There we go. All right, so if you're working on your shots like that, it's a workout.